Hello friends, let's take a look at Ethereum together. So Ethereum, and we spoke about this in yesterday's episode, Ethereum has gone up out to, these heady highs of the 380s area and not managed to maintain that. If we just actually dive up to 24-hour time frame to put this, a little bit clearer for us here. Come on, full screen, come on, full screen. There we go. What we've done so far on this thing is come up. We haven't actually hit the 50% retrace area at the 400s or so point. And really all we're doing at the minute is being suppressed by the sort of the 382, 377 area. And that's not so positive. While we have seen a positive price action day for Bitcoin. So as we spoke about in yesterday's episode, it's always worth taking a look at both of these. And we can see this is pushing on. Is Ethereum leading the chase? Just jumping over towards this one. You can see that we've had this rise up here. And are we seeing this as we've gone up towards the warning line? Closes above 10,850, like I said on yesterday's channel video. Important, of course, for the old Bitcoin price action. But we've seen this drop down the way. Is Bitcoin just going to follow on and come back down, having tested its 50 simple moving average, or what, on the CME charts and follow along with Ethereum price action? You can see then as well the 382 still offering us up that resistance. Now we are above the 236, so we do still have the 400 and 420 targets for sort of, for our higher targets, and getting in with movements towards the top side, giving you a solid 10% again movement towards the top side as well, so for any of these sorts of targets up above. So they are there, but of course, we're being resisted by the 21 EMA currently, and we could see the price action flow towards the downside. How would that maybe shape up then if we were looking at this in terms of the 4-hour time frame? Well, we have this downward movement which came in with without actually too much of the old bullish divergence here. There was bullish divergence on the MACD and on Stochastics, but not on the RSI or the DMI. So if I'm going to put any weight on them, I'd say the RSI over the other ones, to be honest with you. But still you look for it, and there was there on the Stochastics. So we knew that was the case. Came up towards the top side. And then we've been going higher and higher since, and so far then this high and this high and this high all managed to come in without any sort of bearish divergence. So that's been looking kind of good. But what's happened is actually we've not managed to then continue that towards the top side, and we've put in a lower high over there alongside this here, which could be conceivably a sort of lower low. Now, if this here is to be considered a low, and we see this as being hidden bullish divergence on the RSI and the MACD and the Stochastics and the DMI a little bit in this little flow down here, is that going to be a hidden bearish bullish divergence? Well, first off, we're going to need to push past that 390 point in order for this to be considered that, or else perhaps this is just the turning around of the trend at this point here. So instead, we can look towards the subsequent low after we've had this one come in, another low afterwards. If that comes in and is not bullishly divergent, which is giving you the opportunity with the potential hidden bullish divergence, as in this low coming lower than the previous lows on the way up. If we then see this to go down, the price action to go down below this low in here at 360s, and for the momentum oscillators to go on down as well below those lows and push past this potential support zone of the lower warning line of our pitchfork in the background, then you could be looking at just this being a bit of a problem, and we'd be breaking past the 236 at that point, having fulfilled all we really need to in terms of the minimum moves, and then potentially going in for some more downside, in which case levels like 330 become exceedingly important in terms of giving us some support, having come down there, and that's where we found our footing after this low at this area here. Of course, as well, the actual close at 323 being very important as well. But let's just look towards this 357, 356, 355, whatever area for this one, where we have the 236 coming in at around about that zone and the lower line of our pitchfork. If this goes towards the downside, that's the targets to be looking out for. If we go towards the top side, 390, that's the targets to be looking for. Movements beyond either of those two are going to spell the fortune for the next week or two, perhaps, in terms of this price action, and as well, you could be looking at this and saying, well, we've had this little bit of a rise up, then we've got this head and shoulder area, and perhaps in here we could see something negative happen. Now, overall, I don't like the look of that volume profile down the way there. This isn't much of a rise up beforehand to really give you that indication, and it's a small time frame one anyway, where it hasn't really gone for a proper decent size in terms of the amount of candles that we have there. It hasn't really done it really very well. 34 bars is maybe about right. I look between about, I would rather see it something up towards 50, 35, I suppose, in crypto land on 4-hour timeframes is fine for that. So yes, currently resisted by the 233 exponential moving average, the 144, and the 382 Fibonacci retracement point. We've moved down below, which where it was previously being support of the 21 EMA and the 55 EMA in here, currently just below that 370 price point where we find those two EMAs hanging out there about 372. So, that's negative. Movements down below then 362 could see us going down towards these next targets towards the downside. Of course, all of this giving you decent enough size moves, perhaps 5%. And then if we did go down towards any of these other lows, you're looking down towards the 10%, maybe 15, 20 odd percent moves in terms of the price action. So there's plenty to be had there towards the downside. Same thing applies towards the top side in terms of decent sized moves, just simply going back up as high as we were today. For instance, already from our lows of the day so far is a nearly 3% move, 3% or so. Movements up past the previous high in terms of continuing the upward trend is a solid 8% move up. So there's plenty of trading to be had here if we just simply come up and test the 200 simple. We don't need to, be outlandish in our price targets, but that is, what we're currently looking towards in terms of the two upward and downward side limits on this thing. Now, we are versus Bitcoin, and what do we see on the go here? Well, that same chat about the head and shoulders is kind of stacking up, and what we see here is that we've broken down past the potential neckline on this thing, and maybe we see a fulfillment of this move. So if we do see the prices coming in here and not being supported at that 0.0335 area, just a little bit on down from where we are now, then we could be going on even further, perhaps doing a full measured move off the back of this, and that comes in at 0.37 down to 0.34, so that's looking at 0.03 in terms of movement on it. So yeah, we could be going all the way down to 31 or 32 area back to our previous lows over here, and then that would be obviously quite tasty. And that in terms of these Fibonacci's, where we have the 236 in there at 3.511, which we've already gone down below, asking serious questions about this even broader sense head and shoulders, which could be from this as our left shoulder, this is our head, and currently right here where we're putting in our right shoulder. In fact, you can see all these scribbles on the charts here from when we spoke about this speculatively and said, well, if we only manage to come up and put in a 618 Fibonacci retracement here on this price action and then continue to go towards the downside, what would that stack up from in terms of the bigger picture? And well, perhaps then that adds up to this head and shoulders idea that we've had on the go for like the last number of days now. So let's just see if that shakes out or not. I'll draw it in using the tool, I think, speculatively, just to give us something to look at, in terms of pictures. It won't work very well in terms of the tool because the tool never works very well, but I'll do it anyway, just in terms of maybe have we got something like this. Would this be a big head and shoulders to look out for? And in terms of smaller head and shoulders, do we have something like this? I could really have drawn that in better. Let's take it from here. Right, so do we have that? Let's make it a different color so we can see it. Give me a second here. Style, border, orange. Background orange. Okay, so those are the two that we're looking at, and they're both, of course, negative ones, with potential for downside price action. Now, these things fail frequently, so if we do see the prices move up above the 236 area again at that 0.035 area, then we could maybe start to say that maybe we're failing this in terms of a head and shoulders pattern. Movements be more positive to take out both of these, the right shoulder and the head of this one at 0.037 would obviously be where to be looking for in terms of really failing both of these patterns. In the meantime, we're just in here asking some serious questions about this, where we could see perhaps coming down to the 33.50 area where we have our $236, or indeed going for the full measured move off the back of it, coming down towards this 31.32 area from where we've been previously. That's obviously a fairly big chunk off in terms of the price action. So that's something certainly to be looking out for. I'd highly recommend that you go and watch the Bitcoin video for today. And in terms of the patterns that we've got drawn on and versus the USD here on the BitMEX chart, you can see we've got this parallel channel. We're right down here towards the lower end of it. We've got this support line neckline coming in here, which we've had for a while, you know, a very important, crucial area. Movements down below that would then kind of, you know, psychologically set us up for looking at this at 357 as being a neckline again, and then asking questions in this chart with the dollar pricing about whether or not we have a head and shoulders in this area here. I seem to really struggle when it comes to drawing these on with getting the colors to highlight first time, but there you go. That sort of idea. If we saw that, that would be quite bad. Obviously, taking out the 50% of this Fibonacci, and perhaps then looking for a target in around about our 618 zone. And if we just scroll into the price action, you could see that, you know, we could maybe come down towards this area off the back of that head and shoulders if we got the full measured move off of it. And just kind of drag that down the way so you can see. So this would take you right into that golden pocket zone. If we don't get the full measured move off of it, of course, you know, we're looking back over here towards our previous lows and asking questions about whether or not we'd be pushing past them. Anything down there would be obviously negative. And what else do I need to talk about? There isn't any particular need to talk about anything in particular, given that everything was covered in yesterday's episode pretty well. You can see that shape as well lining up on the RSI down below, as you would maybe expect in terms of the pattern. The volume's not great for it, but then again, that's a sort of secondary factor. And currently, yeah, the ADX saying that we're in chop land. So whenever this crossed, whenever the negative crossed, you know, it was above 20. So we had that downward strength movement over there on the 13th of September. What's actually happened subsequent to the 13th of September is we did get a drop down in price. That was actually a significant enough percentage as we filled in the sort of the head to neck area, getting a 10% drop down. You know, so we have had that. Then they've crossed over, but by this stage, we're looking at the market having been in chop. So then when the positive is above the negative, we're not seeing anything superb unless we were to have pushed past that head, tying in with that head and shoulder psychology here in terms of looking at the DMI. And now we've got a negative cross again. Will we see this go for a sub 15? Now, sub 15, I talk about as being volatility territory as well. So the ADX has now gone below 15. If this continues on down the way, especially if it goes below 10, then you'd get sort of the scarier pants off moves happening, you know, the really big ones where people talk about like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. How could you? I wish I had a way of figuring that these things might happen. There's one of them. And that would tie in fairly well with any movements down towards this 353 area for the neckline of this head and shoulders coming in that 236 and then cascading on down the way towards 316. You know, that would very much offer us up enough volatility here to then push the ADX back up towards that 20 area and perhaps see a very successful negative cross on the go. But we don't need to get too carried away with that. And of course, being conservative, we can wait till this comes up above 20 again. Well, these are positioned that way to be bearish. We'd be looking at around about that neckline at the time if that happens, or indeed for this to simply cross over again, have failure of the head and shoulder, taking out our right shoulder here, for instance, at that 385 area, perhaps pushing towards the top side. That really does nail it, I think, in terms of technical analysis. Check out the Bitcoin video. It's very, very good. Give shout outs to people who've recently subscribed to the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you in the next episode. By the way, youtube.com/Rocky Outcrop to share it with your friends. Leaving comments down below will get you entered into a Satoshi giveaway. If we get enough people entering, you know, like talking a fairly like a decent sized number of people entering the competition, they'll do a bigger giveaway. But I'm not going to get carried away with any of that sort of stuff for now. Instead, I'm definitely giving away at least 10 times the Satoshis, 10 times the number of views that we get on the channel in terms of Satoshis, just jumping over to the analytics. So obviously the more views, the better. Oh, that's actually updated and it's gone down to 20,000. So we need to get the views to go up. Every single view that gets added on is another 10 Satoshis onto that prize pool. Leave a comment down below saying Rocky, you rock, or something along those lines. I don't really care what you say. And you'll be entered into the competition. Just needs to be fairly obvious to me that that's your intention. Okie dokie. So as I get every one of these things to open up, F off all these different background tabs. Great. Nice one. See you next time. Catch you next time. Thanks so much. Share it with your friends. I know you want it. A friend of yours is a friend of mine. Join the Discord, all that good stuff. And I'll see you around about the place.